With Bernie Neighbors back in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Jeff here in Charleston, South Carolina, and this is BoarderLine episode 78. We are
crazy.
quickly approaching a huge milestone. We're going to have to do something for
yeah, we get to 100, man.
100.
We got to have a party of some sort. We got to do it live or something.
I'm with you. We really kind of need to.
It's something, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
By that time, won't we be close to California?
Let's see. So we're 78.
No,
so we basically do. No, we're still ways away.
Yeah, it'll be late in the fall. Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah. I know. That's all right. We're gonna get there. 100. That's gonna be a lot. I mean, even 80 is gonna be a lot.
I know. That's crazy, man.
I just thought I've got to call about T-shirts. Seriously, we got
right.
We actually had several people, and
we got to talk to Ron. I mean, we you know what? Ron will probably be out in Mesa. Text me, remind me, and I'll talk to Ron about seeing if we can get some T-shirts made.
Okay.
Because it's ridiculous that we don't have T-shirts to give out to people.
Yeah, I literally had several, and by several I mean 6.
I mean,
who came up and said, by the way, I want a T-shirt if you guys do BoarderLine T-shirts.
Everyone wants a T-shirt. I don't think we're going to have many people buy T-shirts, but everyone would love a T-shirt.
Yes, yeah. Rosie Streaker said she'd buy one. I'm like, Rosie, you are not buying a T-shirt.
Yeah.
I think
the one person that we're not going to let buy one offers to buy one, right?
Yeah, I think we can find one to give to Rosie. I don't know if a lot of people realize that behind the scenes, I mean, she's kind of like a producer type of person for our podcast. So once the podcast is done, we send it to her, and she's the one who actually, gets the podcast up on YouTube. And
hey, let me ask you a question, Jeff.
Dissemination.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Would you say you're a movie fan? What I mean by that question, I think everyone likes movies. Like, would you consider yourself a movie snob, or you're okay with like Transformers?
No, I don't get into that. I do love movies. I'm not a movie snob. I love the act of going to a movie.
Right.
I really do. We have an old school theater. It's called the Terrace Theater here in James Island, just outside of Charleston.
Yeah.
And it literally is like walking back to like 1983, maybe even earlier. This theater was built probably back in the 50s or 60s, and they've renovated it a few times, but it still has that old school feel. So I love going to the theater. But just from having kids when I was younger and being so busy traveling and working, I'm embarrassed of the number of huge box office hits that I've never seen. So sorry, it's kind of a long answer to your question, but
no, I feel frustrated because I'm a movie fanatic. I don't have a lot of passions in the world, but movies, great acting, great writing, things like that are kind of passions for me. And like, it's gone, man. It's done. It's literally. Think about it. You've got that Fast and Furious 10, right? Like they can't think of anything new. No one can write anything new. So it's either some sort of Marvel movie or the 10th version of another movie, which is terrible. I saw a preview for the Meg 2 the other night.
I saw that too.
I'm sitting there watching it going, are there human beings literally going to go pay movie to watch that piece of dog shit? I mean, that's literally what I thought to myself. It's so bad looking.
So did you see a bad movie? Is this what started this?
I've seen tons of bad movies. I think since COVID, COVID changed everything. I mean, like if you go back and you look at, if you were to go back in the 1990s and the early 2000s and look at the movies that were up for Academy Awards, right? And you'd see like 7 amazing films, greats of all time, right? Every year, it seemed like. Now, nothing. You get an animated movie, which are great. There's some amazing animated movies. I mean, it's awful. It's awful. And I don't know how to change that. I mean, maybe all the ideas are gone. I don't know. I mean, they're all kind of based on, Greek tragedies and whatnot. But I mean, it's still, maybe all the ideas are gone.
Now, the fact that you're wearing what appears to be some sort of Carolina blue shirt. Did you?
Yeah, it's a golf shirt. I mean, it's a.
Did you see Air?
I did see Air.
What did you like it? We
It was
actually were
good.
going to go. The
was
weather was
okay.
really crappy here this weekend, so we were going to go see it, but it's gone from the theater already.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's as a North Carolina fan, I mean, you don't really get those moments, right? You're kind of like, oh man, give me Jordan. No, you don't really get any of that.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
So he's not in it at all, right? Is
No.
there a character who plays him?
There is a
Or
guy
have you not
that
even
plays
seen it?
him. Then I think you see his. I don't even know if you. I don't think you even see his face.
Oh.
But for a brief, I mean, 5 seconds, you don't even really get to see. It's more about what they did as a shoe company to land him,
Yeah.
and the uphill battle that existed to get him.
I love the actors. I love the actors who were.
I love everybody in the movie. It's just I know who Sonny Vaccaro is, and I know what he looks like. And Matt Damon could not look any further from what Sonny Vaccaro looks like.
Yeah.
And so that's a tough sell, right? Because it's one of these things like if a guy's dead, and they're you can maybe have someone wear some prosthetics and maybe kind of look like that person. I mean, Sonny Vaccaro looks like Dick Vitale. He's a New Yorker, Italian guy. He's not Matt Damon. He's just it's just funny that they had Matt Damon play Sonny Vaccaro.
That does kill it for me sometimes. We actually saw a movie that was okay. It goes back. It was probably a year ago when we saw it. And it was just funny because really Matthew McConaughey should have probably played this guy. I think it was like American Highway or something like that was the name of the movie with Tom Cruise, where he plays this guy who has his private plane who smuggles.
Oh, the pilot? Yeah. For the CIA.
And he has the worst Southern / Louisiana case.
Can't stand it.
Like
can't
Tom
stand
Cruise can't play that. Like
can't stand it.
It's one of the worst accents that I've ever heard in a movie.
Can we get rid of Southern accents in movies?
If you don't have it, you're not going to have it.
Just do the Mark Wahlberg. Just do your own accent, even though you're from Texas, like in Lone Survivor.
That's what they should have just let him do that. Yeah.
As a Southerner, I can't. There's literally nothing worse to me than when people try to do Southern accents. The occasional person gets it right. Occasionally, like 1 out of 10. But like they try to do this old Southern Baroque, like my mom speaks, kind of. Oh, come here, boy! Like it's just like that. That's not how people in the South talk at all, actually.
No.
And I can't stand it. I can't stand it. And I don't like when someone tries to fake a Brooklyn accent. Right? I like if you're not from, like, you better be good at it, because if you're not, it just sounds like it can literally ruin a movie.
Like Good Will Hunting. I think they kind of nailed it, right?
Well, they're from there. They're from there. That's
why when I hear them, when I hear them talk, though, I don't really hear. But in the movie, they really
I can do redneck.
Up.
I can do redneck accents from North Carolina, but I'm not. I'm from there, but I don't sound like that normally. But I mean, those guys are from there. They grew up. They can figure it out. You know what I mean? I thought
Charleston has a real like the locals from Charleston have a real distinct accent.
Oh yeah, well, especially
and I've heard it a few times. I remember I actually was called a Yankee.
You are a Yankee.
Yeah, but I'm from Iowa. I don't really think
that's way above the Mason-Dixon line, brother.
I know, but it's kind of out west. I mean, I really kind of feel like, the true Yankees are.
To Charlestonians, anybody above North Carolina is pretty much a Yankee. So and they'll let some Virginians in.
Yeah, so I was in a conversation and I didn't realize that one of the boosters from the College of Charleston was standing right there, and so I was having this conversation with a new coach who was from Ohio, and this booster, as soon as I was done with my conversation, she comes up to me and just sweetly, just sweet old lady, just gently grabs my arm and says, "Why, Jeff? I didn't know that you were a Yankee."
Gotta love Charleston, man.
Yeah,
it is. There's a lot. I mean, look, there's a lot to hate about the Old South, but there's a lot to love about it too, which is weird. The weird dichotomy of that. And Charleston's got both of them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is a great city as far as the history goes, and the food and everything. I mean,
I miss it. I used to love, and then you have the Gullah accents that you could hear.
Yeah.
I used to love it. It took me.
They do a really good job down here of really cherishing the good things about the past. And renovating a lot of the stuff. So it's awesome.
It's so funny, man. But all right. So back to movies. Can we make something decent? Did you see Top Gun Maverick?
Yes, I did actually. I did see that.
What did you think of it?
I actually liked it. I actually thought that
But was it special?
It was no.
Right.
No,
And
I thought it was good.
That's how bad movies have gotten, that people, even critics, treated that as if it was special. I mean, it was a fine movie. I mean, it was fun to go back to the theater in the summer and go create, and like, it's silly, lose yourself for a couple hours. Right. But that's not a great movie. Right. You're not going to put that in AFI's top 100 of all time. You know what I mean? But people were, and that's just how bad things have gotten.
Yeah. I thought it was good.
That people were acting as if this was some sort of monumental cinematic achievement. I don't know, man. I miss good movies. I really do.
It's funny we talk about just saying the word great and good makes me think of a conversation I had years ago with I think it was with a professor of mine from the University of Kansas about how broadcasters use the word great way too much.
Yes.
Like save the word great. So that's why when you asked me about that movie, it's not great. I thought it was good.
Very good. It's fine. It's fine. It in a way, it may have saved Hollywood because it took people back to the theater, which I get it. That matters. Cool. But it's from a cinematic standpoint, it was a good little action movie. That's all it really was. But I don't know, man. I used to love movies, man. I used to love going by myself.
Oh, I did the same thing. I used to when I traveled with baseball for all those years. I'd find a movie theater and just go.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
right?
And when I was a single guy in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh, the borough, Milltown, USA.
I spent 5 years I think in Greensboro. Yeah,
did you really?
All the time. I loved it. Yeah.
Where'd you live?
There in 1998 through 2002-ish. So 4
we
or 5
may
years.
have run across each other, Jeff. I've spent some time in the borough.
Really?
See, I have friends that live up there. I went up a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you live?
I lived in an apartment complex. It was called, oh my gosh, I think it was called Wind Lake Apartments, if I remember right.
Remember what
it was
area?
On the north side, north of the city. But yeah, I was doing the at the time it was the Yankees. Ironically enough, it was the Yankees single A.
Nice.
Affiliate there, and Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera. I mean, some of the big minor league prospects had just come through there. I just missed most of those guys. We've got a few of them on rehab, but anyway, so it was the Yankees single A, so I was doing their play-by-play, and then UNC Greensboro, doing their play-by-play for basketball. Yeah,
go Spartans.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to remember, I went to Elon. I was 20 minutes up the road from you. There.
Yeah,
man.
I love those days. No, but so I was a single guy, and I'd go to movies by myself all the time. My mom always felt so bad for me. She's like, "Well, Jeff, why you don't want to take a friend with you?" I'm like, I'm good.
I'd rather not. Right? I mean, I'd rather not. I'm there to watch the movie. I'm going to grab some popcorn, maybe some goobers, have my drink, and I'm there to watch the movie. I don't want to have a friend I'm going to worry about. Like,
that does not shock me at all that you're saying that.
I mean, I'm worried if they're there. Are you okay? Are you having a good time? Is this okay? Like, if they're not there, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so funny. That just reminded me. I was flipping through TikTok the other day and saw just because I like all this comedy stuff. So for some reason, I must have liked something from Seinfeld. So now I'm getting all these clips of old Seinfeld, and the one where Kramer talks about, because Jerry and George Costanza just had this conversation about the meaning of life and that there's more to life. And so Jerry, all of a sudden, who's with this girl, is thinking that maybe he wants to get married. And Kramer's like, "What are you thinking?" And he just goes off. He's like, one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden you're at the dinner table. You know what you do at the dinner table? And Jerry's like, "What?" He's like, "You talk about your day." "Well, how was your day today?" "I don't know. Did you have a good day or did you have a bad day?" One of the all-time great clips from Seinfeld. It was so funny.
That's
what
funny.
the hell are we talking about, by the way?
We're on down the road. We were talking about the terrible state of cinema in the United States, but we could probably move on. I think I've beaten that horse a little bit.
Well, we did have a. I didn't already say this on the show, did I? We were talking like 5 minutes before the show, so we did have a special guest lined up today, but unfortunately, had to cancel at the last minute. I think he may jump in later. I have not heard from him, but you brought up a great topic, cornhole related. That's probably what maybe we started talking about this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago about does cornhole have a transcendent superstar right now?
Right.
Not even right now, as in playing right now, who you see like someone even like a younger player coming up, like a Michael Jordan. Speaking of which, or Tiger Woods, someone like that, that's a transcendent superstar. And so you and I kind of got into that, and I tend to agree with you. Anyway, I just thought it would be, Noah Wooten has always been kind of my go-to guy. I've told the story many times. He's one of the first players I ever met back in 2019, going to 2020 in the sport. So I just thought he just seems to have his finger on the pulse of the sport. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk to him and just ask him if he thinks that there's somebody out there. So I was hoping that we would be able to grab him. Apparently, he's on the move, and it was kind of last minute, so I'm not sure we can hear from him. But I would love to get his thoughts on this. But you and I were talking.
I'm telling you, he's going to say that there is someone and there's not.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a good point. Maybe, and we could even ask him this because I mean, we're always going to get an honest answer from Noah. But I kind of like what I was going to say is I kind of like your point. Maybe Noah is not the person to ask because the players are too close to the sport.
Yeah, they're always going to say, well, so-and-so so good and so-and-so so good. Like they're not getting what transcendent means. They're not understanding that it's not just the fact that they're a very good cornhole player. If that player existed right now, they would already be attracting advertising dollars. They would already be attracting things from outside the sport. That's not happening. Ergo, player does not exist. There are certain people within our organization that have been brought in that seem to think that they can create that out of some of the people that do exist. I don't think you can. I don't think that you can manufacture transcendence. I think that is that's an innate gift that people have. It's what makes them so special. You can't create that. That is not something that you can manufacture. If you could, every sport, every walk of life would have those types of people, and you just don't. I think the players, I mean, we had this conversation streaming with Wally and Michelle, and they were giving me examples of people that they thought did. And I was like, if they did, they would be, and it's like, if they were doing that, I think Wally tried to come up with Jay Gore, maybe in a few years he becomes that person. I don't see it. I mean, does it? And then people take it as like some sort of slight on other human beings. It's not a slight. It's not a slight. You can still be truly exceptional at what you do. I mean, you can be the best at what you do, actually, and not be transcendent. And I just don't think we've found that person yet. Hopefully they come along, because I think the sport needs that. I think that, this is just my personal opinion, and once again, a reason why I'm not invited to certain rooms anymore. I think there's only so far we can go with what we have. I think that we are in need of that person, whether it be male, female, who knows, that can take the sport from where it is and take it that next step beyond, to where it doesn't just plateau where it is. And I don't see that person here yet. And hopefully, and the thing is, everyone in the room will know who that person is. Half the people will not like them because of it. Half the people will follow them through a brick wall because of it. But everyone will know who it is in the room, and they're not there yet.
Yeah, that's one of the great lines I heard as far as superstars. You have 10 people out there. 5 will love you, 5 will hate you, but all 10 will respect you.
Yes,
that's just one of the core foundations of a superstar. I mean, look at some of the biggest superstars we have, how polarizing they are. But all of them fear this person when it comes to competition.
Yes.
So, but I totally agree with you. I think you make a good point, and I've kind of seen that too behind the scenes. I feel like, and I don't blame them for doing this. I do feel like, maybe there's been an effort by the league to maybe push certain players and try and create that type of excitement. And I totally agree with you that it has to happen organically.
Yeah.
You're right. You can't force that. And you're right. When you see it, and you and I have talked about this, I think, on the live streams. And again, I use baseball as an analogy all the time. You just know that player when you're standing at the cage during batting practice. You can just tell when they're just hitting BP. It just sounds different off their bat when they hit. Like you and I were talking, I think, on one of the live streams about Josh Hamilton, right? One of the great prospects who came up, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago now. But when you stood around the cage, the way the the ball sounded off his bat was just different. And you hear people talk about that all the time. But that wasn't
But it's more than talent. I mean, I
it
guess
wasn't
the thing
contrived.
is,
it was organic.
yeah, but it's more than talent. And I think that's what people struggle with. It's more than talent. What makes a player like a Tiger Woods different when he comes into the game of golf, because you can literally look at professional golf. There was before Tiger and after Tiger, and 1996, 1997 is a demarcation line in that sport, and it changed forever from one guy. And it wasn't because he came out, and he did win. He won the Masters in 97, but it's not like he won every tournament he played in. He won a lot. But it was something different about him. It was innate. It emanated off of him. You could see.
That's what I talked about before. He had presence.
35-year-old professional golfers who had spent their entire life in that sport, had made the PGA Tour, still kind of cowered next to a 21-year-old because he had that certain presence. And we don't have it yet as much as people want to think we do. And look, I think we should be pushing certain people. And I think it's great that Matt Morantz has come on and like, hey, this is what we have to do for certain people. And these are things that we have to do, but you can't manufacture that. Some people just have it, and they're rare. They're remarkably rare commodities. They are not made, and if they were mass producible, the world would be different, but it's not.
I actually thought for a moment, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this for just a moment. And maybe it's just because I was new to the sport and just hadn't seen this type of atmosphere and excitement before. But believe it or not, I actually thought that for a moment, Austin Slowbaum kind of had that presence, that excitement.
Because of the college thing. Because of the college thing, it's so different.
And it really seemed to have it really seemed to have legs for just a moment, and then it kind of went away. I'm not sure what happened. I think.
Well, he had to start playing against professionals. I mean,
yeah, but wasn't there something too where he still? I mean, he was still in school. I think he still had to finish school, and he
wanted to stay. He wanted to stay in school.
Maybe he chose.
Well, he also played in a different organization.
Yeah. So I feel like it was there for a second. There was something there that I felt watching him play, listening to him speak, and the energy. Like I even had family members, like my sister's daughter. And her husband just happened to be watching, right? And they absolutely fell in love with him. And for little Kaylin, who's a diabetic, had just been diagnosed with diabetes. All of a sudden, she became a big Austin Slowbaum fan. And so I got her a jersey signed. He signed a jersey, and I sent it to her. I mean, there was something going on there. And just reading stories from his hometown and just seeing some other headlines regionally. I mean, there was something there for a moment. But again, to your point, that came out of nowhere, right? No one knew that name. It was also college. It wasn't fed to anybody.
It was also college. It was a pretty large step down away from the pro division when you first saw Austin. So
but it didn't matter though.
It didn't matter, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, it wasn't transferable.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if had it been transferable, we would have seen it transfer.
Well, maybe it's just because, it's just because it just was a moment. And again, and I don't know, and I'm not putting this on Austin. He made the decisions he made. Maybe because he made a decision to go in a different direction. Maybe that's kind of what stopped it. I'm just saying at that time. I'm not saying he's the guy because he's obviously not. But for a moment, I thought that was Matt Sorrells. I thought for a moment Matt Sorrells had some traction. He had a look about him. He had a presence about him. He was well spoken. He was good with interviews, and at the time he was a good player. Sometimes I kind of miss watching that guy play, but I feel like we've had a few moments, but we haven't had that person like you're talking about.
If Kaylee Hunter
just transcends everything.
If Kaylee Hunter had the attitude of Lori Doole and the game of Cheyenne Bubenheim, she could be that person. Seriously.
Yeah, but again, to your point, Bernie, if she had it, we'd know by now.
If she had it, it would be natural and it would flow out of her, and it just doesn't. She doesn't have that. Her personality is quiet. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, as far as a type of person that could maybe take things in a very different direction for the sport, she has that capability. It's just not in her personality-wise to just be vivacious like that, and to kind of bring like she doesn't draw you in, right? And that's not her fault. That's not a bad thing. And once again, I've had people come up to me and get really mad at me, by the way, from some of the things I've said on the show. And I'm not being negative about her. I love her. I think she's amazing. I think she's a great human being, actually. She's just a very quiet, sweet girl. Zero wrong with that. But when you're talking about people that are transcendent, they just have this thing that comes off of them, and it's called it factor or whatever you want to call it.
I call it presence.
But we all know what it is when we see it.
Yeah.
Every single one of us knows what it is when we see it. And I just don't think that person exists yet.
So maybe going all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, as much as I want to hear from Noah, and I will ask him about it, you're right. If we have to ask who that person is,
they're not there.
They're not there yet.
Because he's going to tell you Tony Smith. He's going to tell you maybe Devin. He's going to tell you because they're such amazing players, and they are. But if they had that presence,
I would push back on that a little bit, I guess, and say it's not impossible. I mean, it's not like Tiger Woods dropped out of the sky. He was there before he became Tiger. Yeah. Michael was not Michael, even though he was a great player at North Carolina. So I'm not going to 100% say that person's not there. What I am going to say is that we haven't seen this person arrive yet. So is it possible that they're there? Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I do. I see what you're saying. I mean, Tiger was kind of that way. I mean, he was on the Tonight Show at 3 years of age. He was already kind of
absolutely. He was a phenom.
He was emanating stardom by the time he could walk. Jordan was a little different, even though he still had that kind of it factor in college. It's just college basketball back then was still very regionalized.
Totally.
I see what you're saying, though. It wasn't until he got on the grand professional stage that you saw it.
Right.
And it didn't take, I mean, they talk about Chicago Bulls practice, 2 weeks in, that one of the assistant coaches calls the general manager and says, "You got it right. He's everything." And, 2 weeks in. Right. And so, I mean, they knew it as soon as he stepped on the floor as a rookie. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I think someone like Tony Smith could be it, actually, more I think about it. But Tony just doesn't have that personality that just sparkles,
Yeah. I feel like Justin Burton Jr., if he can, we ran a little, what was it, like a minute-long little feature on him before one of his matches. We're actually able to get him sit down in front of the camera, and he opened up real briefly about his background and his dad and how much pressure was put on him as a youngster to win, and losing was not acceptable. And he really took that loss in Erie really hard a couple weeks ago. Sure. So if that personality comes out, he has a great voice. I mean, we kind of joked on the air when we were interviewing him live at one of our events in the last month. I mean, he has a voice like a country music star. I mean, he sounds like Scotty McCurry. I mean, somebody like that. I mean, he has a really great voice. If that personality can come out, maybe, because he's got the talent. He's got the look. He's got a unique look. He's got a presence when he walks onto the court. He's tall. I mean, there's so many things that are just,
I love him. Doesn't have it. If he had it, you'd know it. I mean, you would know it. I mean, do you feel a presence when you see Justin Burton Jr.? I think I see a great kid. I see it.
I do. I feel it.
I don't. Come on, man. Do you really? Do you feel a Tiger Woods?
I feel when he takes the court. I feel a presence about him when he comes on the court. I do. It's just a unique
on the
look.
Court. Once again, transcendence is more than when they're playing. It's how they are and how they're viewed by everyone as they walk around. Yeah. Once again, you can't get lost in just how they are when they play. Because when they play, Justin Burton Jr. is what? Jr. is one of the 3 best players on the planet right now, if not the best. I'm not saying anything about how good of a player he is. I'm talking about transcendence and taking the sport to different places. I don't see Anheuser-Busch knocking down doors to get Justin Burton Jr. to take us different places. I don't see Nike busting down doors to see him take us in different places. Now, is it possible? Maybe, but he would have to change his personality and fundamentally who he is as a person. And that there's nothing wrong with who he is as a person. Once again, I think people get lost in excellence as a athlete compared to transcendence. I mean, I'll give you someone that transcended the women's game that wasn't very good. Anna Kournikova transcended women's tennis, and she never won a thing. Now she was willing to play up her femininity. She was willing to play that up, but she made more money, and she took that sport to different ratings than anyone ever had before her, including Martina and Chris Evert and these people that had played before her that had played at a infinitely higher level. But she had whatever that one thing was, and she knew it, and she knew how to use it. And there's a little bit of difference there. Those people know. Tiger Woods is fully aware of who he is and how he carries himself. Michael Jordan, fully aware of who he is and how he carries himself. And that's what makes these people special. They're aware. They have it. It emanates out of them. They don't need handlers to teach them how to do things. They just kind of know. I mean, do they still have handlers? Yes, but I don't know, man. I don't think that person exists in our game yet. Maybe they do. If they do, they're young. They're very young.
I've got another name for you, Danica Patrick.
100%.
Yeah.
Took the sport,
style,
all of it. Never won a thing. Never. Did she even finish in the top 10? I mean, seriously.
If you look back on her finishes, because the wins aren't there. Even if you look back on her finishes, there's a few close calls, but that's about it.
Yeah. She was also female in a male-dominated sport, and that's why I mentioned
that's
why I mentioned Kaylee Hunter.
Yeah.
If she had that kind of personality that just was, kind of look at me and look at me, because there's a lot to look at there. Kaylee is a beautiful young woman, but I don't think she has the type of personality that says, look at me. That's part of it. And that's where I think a lot of our players don't get it. Like, it's more than just being good. I think Mark Richards, from a personality standpoint and from a player standpoint, like there's pieces there, but it's just lacking that one little thing. And like, if we knew what that one little thing is, we could manufacture it, but we don't know what that is.
I'm going to go back and wrap up my thought on Justin Burton Jr.
Okay.
Because again, it's like I've told my kids this all the time. True compassion in someone's heart of society is realizing that happiness looks different for everybody. I tell my kids that all the time. Remember that happiness looks different for everybody. Regardless of your lifestyle or your shape, or your size, your color, whatever, happiness is different for everybody. We all have different likes. We all have different needs.
Sure.
We all have different things that we want to do and we want to accomplish. So you need to accept that and accept that everyone's different. So I happen to look at Justin Burton Jr. differently than you do. I feel like there is a presence there with him. I'm not saying he's the one. I feel like in the sport of golf, ever since Tiger left, it's always, well, is he the next Tiger? Is he the next Tiger? Is the next Tiger? So I don't want to get into that conversation. Is he the one? Is he the one? Is he the one? I'm just saying, Justin Burton Jr. has a presence to me. I like it not only when he walks on the court, but I follow him. Like, I want to learn more about him. I want to talk to him. And when we were in Erie, I went to go watch him play. And to me, if you're someone like me, and I come at this sport like a fan, mm-hmm. When I search for someone to play, to me that's a component of being that person. Again, I don't know if he's going to be that person or not, but I think he has that presence, he has that energy, he has that excitement. I want to watch him play.
I do too.
And I hate that he lost in Erie. I want him to be dominant.
Yeah, that part I agree with.
Being a fan.
Yeah, that part I agree with. I actually love watching him play. I try to find him when I'm not streaming, when I'm not doing that. I actually try to find where he is so I can watch him play, because he is that good.
Yeah.
But I just, once again, if he had that it factor, it would already be there. I mean, he's an adult. He's not a kid. I mean, he's kind of who he is. And he's been here for just a blip too. So yeah.
Maybe we need to give him a little bit. We need to give him a little bit longer. That's why I hate these conversations, because that's why I'm saying it. Very guarded comment about him, because he may not win the rest of the year. We may not see him. I mean, look at how we've seen some players just drop off the.
And you're right. Yeah, you're right there. I mean, I think it is going to be a player that has a season like a Mark Richards did last year, but then has another one. And another one, and then kind of explodes. But once again, there's going to have to be something about them that's not just their play. that draws not us,
so
that doesn't draw us in, that draws everyone in.
Yeah.
That draws people that work for marketing agencies that represent Nike, that represent some of the Budweiser, Coca-Cola, some of these larger companies. It's going to be something about them that draws them in. And I just don't know if we have a player that has that yet. That's all.
And to your point, it's funny because I was just looking back, like, I don't know, I was just kind of reminiscing because I was doing a lot of work for teams over the weekend. So I was just reminiscing about a lot of things over the last 3 years. And I was trying to think of players who I miss. So I started looking back over the last 3 years of different matches that I've called. And I looked back I keep track of the winners for each year. So back in 2021, I looked back at the list of winners. It's pretty much all the same names, which totally goes to your point, Bernie. It's not just winning. It's not just being on stage or winning. It's having that presence and being transcendent. Ryan Windsor's name popped up a bunch. Trey Birchfield's name, my God, it's been all over the place,
Yeah.
But it hasn't gotten to that level that we're speaking of. So
it's funny, like if Trey would have continued the kind of whole robot thing, I think in a weird sort of way that may have started to work over time.
That might have, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like instead of being like, it would have been different. It would have been like it would have been like Bizarro World transcendent. Like he's so quiet, he's so unaffected. Like it would have become a very interesting
there was something
thing.
there. There was something there with that, yeah.
But I think he lost a little bit of that when he became human again.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Hopefully one day, I actually think it's going to be a female that becomes that player, that just has a natural presence about them, that is willing to embrace their femininity, that's willing to embrace their competitiveness, that's willing to embrace a lot of things that can kind of take this, that will draw extra eyes on.
And be able to take down, I mean, like going back to our conversation about Danica Patrick, and be able to take down the guys
and win.
Because even though Danica didn't win, she still has some top 5s and top 10s where she's beating other drivers.
And she even got in a couple push fights in the pits.
We wouldn't even need this female player to necessarily start winning consecutive majors, consecutive shootouts can't the shootouts side, but consecutive nationals, or pro side world championships, but compete, knock some of these guys down, get into the bracket final,
100%.
Get to where we see them on TV. So yeah, I agree with you. Could totally be.
Who could actually do it if she just got, let's say Elizabeth Tennyson became the best female player on the planet and decided that she wanted to kind of let everybody know it. I think you're looking at someone like that could possibly do it, but it would be different because I don't know
her real well. I just saw her that one time.
I think she could bring extra eyes on, is all I'm saying. I think she's got that, whatever that is, but I mean, I don't know if she'll ever be that. I mean, she's got a long mountain to climb, a tall mountain to climb to find that spot. So I'm spitballing, but I still don't think that person exists in our pro division, but maybe they do. I mean, Wally was adamant that it was Jake Gore. And I understood what he was saying, because Jake is a personality, right? I mean, Jake is everything that you want in a personality, right? And he's only going to get more so when he gets older, hopefully, if he doesn't burn out. I mean, can you imagine being 17? You've been a pro athlete for 4 or 5 years already?
I mean, it happens a lot.
Right? Happens all the time in tennis.
It happens to basketball. It happens in tennis a lot.
Yep.
I mean, those kids play so much from the time they're 4 years old. By the time they're 18, they're just done. They're done.
Done. I just want to go to school and be a normal kid. I'm going to go play for free because of my tennis. But other than that, leave me alone.
Could happen.
Yeah. Who knows? I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's an interesting conversation, because I think it's the kind of conversation that you could literally have for a very long time and get 20 different answers from 20 different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are certain people within our organization that think that you can still manufacture it. I don't think that you can.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
But I think that there's people that do.
Are there any players that you really miss watching play? And I'm not saying this just because he was possibly going to come on today. But Noah, I really miss having Noah on the broadcast. And here is a perfect example. Speaking of what we're talking about, Noah there's something organic about Noah Wooten that's great on the court, and
Sure.
someone who definitely has presence. I hate that his game is not, and I know he's working really hard behind the scenes to try and get back to that level that he was at. But I really miss watching Noah play. I
think
his
Noah's
energy,
too nice.
and his energy was not contrived on the court. It wasn't forced. Going back to what you were just talking about, it was so organic. He was so real. There's nothing fake about Noah when he's out there throwing bags.
For a person
he's so into it, I just loved watching him play. I really
I'm
miss
with you.
seeing him.
For a person that's so opinionated, and he's rubbed some people the wrong way because of his opinions, he's still too nice. I think he reveres certain players that are his friends too much, and it makes it hard for him to beat them. And I'm talking about Tony Smith. I'm talking about Devin Harbaugh. I'm talking about a few others that he likes and respects so much that I think it makes it hard for him to beat them because he thinks they're so great. Like, I mean, I think,
instead of just having like a killer instinct to just want to,
yeah, I like you, man. We're cool. We'll hang out away from the court, but I'm going to tear you apart right now. And I don't think he has that.
Interesting point.
Because I think he reveres Tony Smith. I think he reveres Devin Harbaugh. I think he reveres Windsor.
I feel like sometimes he's almost like a father figure to some of these.
Some of them.
And like Tony, like I think it's Tony that he's told us many times. Like he gets Tony up in the morning. He's like, hey, get your butt out of bed. Let's go. Let's go. Let's eat. Let's be healthy. Let's throw some bags, whatever. I mean, he gets some of these guys going. So I shouldn't say dad. He's not old enough. Maybe like a big brother is a better analogy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I miss him.
That's an interesting point, Bernie.
I thought Matt Sorrells was a guy that I enjoyed watching because of his attitude.
Anybody else that maybe I didn't see? Can you think of somebody who?
I mean, I came in not too long before you, actually. So some of those people.
Was my guy. I was Noah this weekend, and I just miss watching him play. And Matt Sorrells too. I wrote
on the broadcast. On the broadcast, I'm trying to think. I mean, most of them are still there. If you think about it, like Damon Dennis kind of dominated for a while. Jimmy McGuffin, we saw a lot.
Yep.
I mean, they're still around. It's just the game has changed a little bit. Right?
Is there somebody that you really missed that really just had just a great personality and was exciting to watch on the court? That like a Brittany Emge. I mean, do you miss seeing her? She was.
I mean, I miss her being around. Actually,
she's a little firecracker, right?
Yeah, I miss her.
I knew
around.
her very briefly, but
a lot of those people that were around, like Frank Modlin's still going. I mean, a lot of those people are still going. Geez,
by the way,
that's a tough question. It's a good question.
That brings up another point.
I miss James Baldwin being on broadcast.
Jordan Kamba, he's a name who popped up on my winners list from a few years ago. Yeah, Jordan Kamba and James Baldwin. I like those guys as a team.
But I like where the game is headed, as far as everyone's got to be able. You got to be able to hit all kinds of different shots. Like it seemed there for a while, especially when I first got back involved in the sport and right before you got involved. But it was like you either played this way or you played this way, and that was it. There was no crossover. You either played a dirty game or you played a slide game. There was no in between, right? And I think, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, that you have to have both. You've got to be able to do both.
Yep.
To win. I mean, you've got to. You still. I mean, I think someone like an Eric Davis, for example, has kind of lost his position. A, because I think his confidence is down, even though he would never admit it. And B, you got to be able to put bags in the hole these days.
Amen, brother.
And I'm with you on this. I understand manufacturing points. I get it. You have to be able to do that as well, because I think some of the just straight slide
Same thing
players,
in baseball. You got to be able to manufacture runs in baseball.
You
still need a 3-run home run.
Yeah, you got it right. And I think
you still got to smack one into the gap for a 2 RBI double. You still got to hit.
Yeah, I don't think
you can't just bunt your way to win every freaking night.
I know. I don't think Eric Davis feels that he can throw 16 straight bags, even though obviously he can. Right? And it's just like, man, just do that. Give yourself a rest. Just throw some bags in the hole every now and then surprise your opponent with a block. Then do something to kind of create tension. But if they know that every one of your first bags is going to be a block, and if you miss it, they know they're getting points.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. We're on a tangent here. Where are we? Someone write something down. Where are we?
Not to take somebody taking notes. Are we taking minutes? So not to take a quick right turn on this. Did you want to do a top 10 at all? Because
I've got my same one from last week because nothing really happened.
Yeah, I misspoke last week on mine, so I really the only thing I have is just a correction from mine. But real quick, I came up with an awesome trivia question. I actually shot this over to Trey this weekend and interrupted his Disney vacation.
Man, does anyone like going to Disney more than those two?
Oh my God! Well, does Trey? I mean, Shelby loves Disney. Does Trey like Disney as much as Shelby, or is Trey? Just
I don't think anyone likes it as much as Shelby. But I mean, that is crazy because
it is a happy place. I do.
It is happy and it's glorious and the rides are awesome and it's fun. But
so real quick, I want to have this discussion because I think we're getting close to having this discussion. Best, and I hate it. Just makes me cringe. Right? It makes me cringe to say this. But it made me think of it this weekend again, doing some prep for teams. Greatest, and don't answer the question now, and because I'm not even sure I have the answer, but I saw two quick stats that I had to throw out there. Greatest, and I'm talking cornhole, greatest player to never win a major. By major, I'm saying national or world championship. Yeah. Because two names popped up this week. And again, you don't have to answer now. It takes a lot of you're gonna have to go back and do some preparation and some research. Although you might have somebody off the top of your head. But so I'm going through, right? I'm doing some research, and all of a sudden these two names pop up. There are two players, well-known players in the ACL, current players that we see all the time.
I mean, Devin Harbaugh is one.
Who are tied, even more than that are tied for 12th on the all-time wins list. They each have 6 all-time career titles, and neither one of them have a national win or a world championship. I've given my Trey Birchfield stat before. I mean, Trey's 3rd all-time on the wins list, right? And
so you're talking shootouts. So they've won shootouts. So like a Ryan Smith.
They have. They've each won shootouts. Yeah, they've each won. Yeah. Matter of fact, they've each won shootouts on the singles and doubles side, but they have never won a national or world championship. Again, I've given my Trey Birchfield stat. Trey's what I just say, 3rd all time, I think, with 14 career titles, but only 1 national win. Yeah, and he does have the singles world championship as well, but only 1 national. So these two players, I'm like, wow, I could not believe. One of them, maybe. The other one, I couldn't believe.
You got to give him to me. You can't just leave me to hang for a week.
Well, you mentioned one right away, Ryan Smith.
Yeah,
his name came out.
Round limited. He's always been a round limited warrior.
Yeah, he's. I mean, again, 6 career titles, 12th all time, has never won a national or world championship.
That's not surprising to me, actually.
The other one, only because we're running out of time, Frank Modlin. I can't believe Frank has never won a national. And I hate to even say that because I hate it when people would say this in golf. You know, best player to never win a national or win a major.
Yeah,
Frank is there ahead of Devin Harbaugh because Devin has 4 or 5 now.
Yeah, Devin's finally coming into his own. From a talent perspective, I guess I got ahead of myself. But Ryan Smith doesn't.
Frank though, Frank's never won a national, even in doubles.
That's surprising that he hasn't won somewhere with someone. Snuck into a doubles win somewhere. That is surprising.
All right. Well, we'll continue.
Ryan doesn't surprise me because Ryan doesn't do as well. He's had some deep runs. Don't get me wrong, but he does seem to be more of a round limited warrior. So most of his wins, I imagine, are in shootouts.
Yes. I think he's won twice in singles, and now after winning the first one this year with Ryan Wiedenfeld, I think he's won 2 singles and 2 doubles.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
So, yeah. All right, I got to wrap things up. So top 10, your top 10 stay the same. I'll tweet mine out later on this week. But
my top. I'm keeping
the same. I switched. I meant to have Tony Smith at 9, and I wanted Caleb Batson at 10, and I forgot to.
That's tough. There's too many names, buddy. There's too many names. I mean, I've still got Kyle Malone, Matt Guy tied at 10, Jamie 9, Jake 8, Joe K at 7, 6, Mark Richards, Devin at 5, Tony Smith 4, Alan Rawls 3, Justin Burton Jr., Alex Rawls. That's my top 10.
All right, and I've got Caleb at 10, Tony Smith at 9, Jake at 8, Matt Guy 7, Joe K 6, Alan Rawls 5, Mark Richards 4, Devin Harbaugh 3, Alex Rawls 2, and JBJ at number 1. And that brings us to 10 seconds left in the show. Safe travels. I will not see you in Arizona. My daughter's graduating. Congratulations to Noelle, graduating from high school. So I will not see you.
Congratulations,
Noelle. All right,
yes,
we got to go.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.